All right, so here I am with my final of bird's eye view. Remember that with bird's eye view, your vanishing points and the horizon line that connects those 2 points is very, very high on the page. That means you, the bird, flying high, looking down, seeing an awful lot of land beneath you and not so much sky above you, okay? Because of your vantage point, your viewpoint, you're looking down, you see a lot of land and not so much sky. You can see I've done some planning with pencil first. Remember that you establish your vanishing points high. Use radiating lines to come off the right vanishing point. Use your ruler. Multiple lines radiating outwards from that single point. Same here on the left, multiple lines, straight lines, radiating outwards. Where they meet creates a foundation, either the top or the bottom of some form, some building-like form. A form is three-dimensional. Now, three-dimensional implies that I can see more than one surface, okay? I can see a top surface, I can see its depth here, I can see its width, I can see the height of the whole thing. Of course, it's going to be accentuated and made more three-dimensional through color and shading, right? So that's a very important component as well, coming here soon. Before I do anything else, though, I must count my buildings. I need to have 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put a 5th one back here, and it may be, I'll use this very small surface right here in the distance, high on the page. I see the corners. I might just come up and down, and I'll come over and down again. This, if you've ever been to St. Louis, this looks an awful lot like the St. Louis Arch, the gateway to the west right there. And because that is such a small item, and you don't have to do anything with permanent marker if you don't want to, but I'm going to use a permanent marker here to go over my lines carefully. And in that way, make those lines stand out. And I do like to use marker, although it is possible to overdo it, and we'll talk about that in a moment. You do not have to use marker, okay? But if you like to use marker, you may. I'm going to go ahead now, since I have my 5th object in there, and I'm going to establish my horizon line back here, connecting with my 2 vanishing points, but only seeing certain portions of the horizon line because there are some buildings or forms in the way. Here's what I have. I have my horizon line, my horizontal line going across left to right. You can see it's interrupted by several forms that stick up in front of it, and that's good. We have overlapping there, and that implies a deeper space. Now I see something here that I want to reinforce with a skinny marker. Notice I've used some fatter marker here for some bigger forms, but with skinny marker you want to certainly use it for smaller forms. This is a flag of some sort, flying high. It looks like some kind of Italian or Middle Ages kind of thing. And I have it blowing in the breeze. Okay, now I think I'm kind of done with some of my detailing right now. I think unless I need some of these vertical lines, it's not going to hurt to keep them, but unless I need them, I'm going to get rid of them. And I can always reestablish them later. If they're getting in my way, if they're causing me confusion, I can get rid of them and reestablish them later, okay? Again, using my kneaded eraser, I kind of like it. It doesn't tear up the paper. Cautious at the edges that you don't pull across the edge coming inside and tear at the paper. Oops, pretty much almost happened there. Pushing along the edges is good, not pulling. That way you're less likely to come in and damage the paper. Kneaded eraser is good for that reason. So even without my grid there, much of it has been erased now, even without my grid there, you can see that these look pretty convincingly 3D. Now this is a river coming from the distance, meandering, coming underneath this object here, and then falling over a cliff, falling down. May be hard to make out the spaces here. Maybe that will continue to be the case when this is done. I don't know. But nevertheless, let's have some fun with this space. Remember that if you have a color that you want to use, you can lay it down lightly within the whole of the form. That means every single surface that you see, going quickly and lightly, giving yourself room to maneuver. That would be room to turn the paper so you can place that color wherever you need it. I'm going to go back and cross over my original mark. That helps to kind of smooth it out. Gives me an opportunity when I'm turning the paper to get into these hard to reach corners and up against edges that otherwise may be a little bit tricky. Now in just a moment, when this lighter color is laid down on all of these different surfaces, I have to make some decisions about light, medium, and dark. Well, you know, light stays light, and I'm keeping it light right now, right? So we want to determine which surface is going to stay light. It kind of makes sense that this topmost surface would stay light because it faces the sky. Isn't necessary to do that, but there's some logic to that. It might be that more distant surfaces down here may darken a little bit. It could be that if there's an overhang here for some reason, this may darken. So you see I'm kind of instinctively going in. I'm going to darken this inside edge here, create some contrast between this inside edge and that top surface. A little deeper, a little darker down here where it goes deeper, darker, more protected. I might go ahead and darken along this edge, pushing in, so I have a little dark to light contrast right here. And this is a curved surface, by the way, so it can adjust value-wise in lots of different ways. I think I'm going to go a little darker in the whole of this area down here. Let's take a look and see what we've got. Does that look 3D? It's not bad. We have good contrast here. We don't have any contrast here yet. Let's get some right there. Just a little bit. Okay, so this reads as light, this reads as darker. If darkening this forces us to go back and make some adjustments here, so this compared to this is working for us, we will. Is this good enough right now? Yes, it is. Move on. Now, do I want to blend colors eventually? Do I have to do it now? No. Can I do it at any time? Yes. Can I do a little bit now and a little bit later? Of course. Am I suggesting that there's no exact rules? There are possibilities that you have to kind of adapt to and make your own. Here I'm putting the same kind of green color on either side of this form. You see already on the inside I've gone a little bit darker. I'm going to add a neutral gray to that. It might be that I want that to go very, very dark, and I might pick up my skinny marker. Whoops, that's not going to go down on top. It looks like the binder, the waxy binder of the pencil I was using is preventing that from going down very easily. Finally got it to work. This side needs to go darker than that. This is going to stay light, but there is that curve. I might take, here's that darker green. I could go ahead and use it. Let's go ahead and try it. It's a dark green, but you know what? It's a fairly intense green. So it is darker, yes. Does it still have intensity? Does it still have brightness? Yes. What is the complement of green? Well, if I look over my shoulder at the wheel behind me, that would be red. Do I have a red? More or less. Well, that's a brown. If you mix a red and a green, two complements, you're going to neutralize to get a very nice gray. In this case, it's a very deep gray. See it right there? And that's very suitable for a shadow. Did I want to use black there? Yeah, not really. Black is heavy duty. I used a little black line here, that was it. So if you ever want to use a dark gray, think in terms of complementary pairs of colors, like red and green, yellow and violet, blue and orange, and maybe you'll get your good combination that way, your good neutral that way. This gray over here, maybe I want to warm it up. What does warming it up mean? I mean adding a warmer color, maybe a pink, maybe an orange, maybe a yellow. I'm going to add a little pink to this and see what happens. This is called warming up that neutral. You could also cool it down if you want to. What would I use if I cooled it down? Well, I'd probably use blue, or I'd probably use a green. So let's use a blue here to cool that down. So you can see you can make adjustments and have contrast based on warms and cools as well. Since I've got this blue in my hand, I'm going to come over here to this, create some lines in that cascade going down. I like the idea that it'll get a little deeper and darker as it goes down, down, down. So I'm going to darken that right there. And it might be coming out of that deeper area of the page. Coming up, I might move from a darker to a lighter along that surface. And let's see what else. I'm going to let's try this. This is a gold I'm throwing in there. You see, I'm just being a little experimental with the pencils. There's some gold coming in there. That's not bad. And you can see how these areas are beginning to develop. I have worked on these two, may not be done with this. That curve suggests that it could go a little darker up there. What's darker? Well, brown's darker, red's darker. I used red or green earlier. Let's come back here again. Got the red in my hands. Maybe I'll go ahead and do a little shadow there, a little shadow there. Am I going to keep that red? Nope, probably go back with another color, but just going into the shadowy areas right now. There's a little shadow, there's a little shadow, there's a little shadow, there's a little shadow. And let's try a little bit of yellow across the top of that. Here comes the yellow right across the shadowy areas, those shadowy reds. Is that working? Kind of yes, kind of no. Can I go back and rework that surface? Sure I can. And I might just do that right now. A little bit lighter on the reds, so the transition into the yellow is a little bit more, what do you say, careful? And leave that alone for right now. And so it goes, guys. Eventually I'll have to add color and shading to this one, this one, this one. And you know, these blocks right here are intended to be like the tiles on a floor, the alternating black tiles, say on a white and black checkered floor. So just imagine, and I can go in with my marker and do some of this. This is called hatching. You don't necessarily have to do hatching, but I like doing it. It's a quick and easy way to add tone or shadow. It also is somewhat challenging, making you draw straight, even lines, evenly spaced. Hatching, cross-hatching, that is when you go across the mark in a different direction. Very, very good. I think I'll tighten up on the lines here, put them a little closer together since we're farther back. The farther back you go, the smaller things are. This is still farther back over here. My angle on the hatching changed a little bit. I don't know that that's desirable, but I did it, okay? And then I can go back there. So I might come back here and work that hatched area again, get some color in that, get some color in that, get some color in that, and then I would be done. I could, if I wanted to, add a very small amount of color here in the sky. Watch how easy, okay? Doesn't have to be blue. I'm gonna go dark to light, that's it. Dark to light. I'm going to push off that bottom horizon line, fade out rapidly to give some sense of atmosphere there, and I'm good to go. What if I do the opposite? I'm going to turn this upside down. Here I'm going to add an earthy brown, dark next to the horizon line, pushing down, fade out, pushing down, fade out. Notice how there's consistency the way this brown carries across the entire page, going behind and then reappearing. So that tells me that horizon line and that color are being interrupted. So you can see how just setting a little bit of color here on the ground, a little bit of color here in the sky, a little bit of atmosphere, a little bit of a sense of a solid surface here can go a long way. Did I do a lot of work? No, I did not. Do I have a ways to go? Sure I do. Can I spend more time on this? A bunch. But this gives you an idea of the direction you're going to go. Remember, you don't have to use marker if you don't want to. If you do use marker, you may choose to use skinny, fat, or both, like I did. Okay? Remember to build your surfaces, your colors slowly. Experiment with blended colors if you want to. Be cautious about using straight black unless you really just need that very strong dominant effect. Now, you try.